Okay, let's kick things off. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's session. So this is the pre-show to the Property Developer Show, the first ever event in Manchester. My name's Chris. I'm the co-founder of UK Homes Network. If you're not aware, UK Homes Network is the UK's first social media app specifically for the property industry. It is a place where property industry professionals can network, share information, talk about what's happening in the industry, as well as share deals and network with other members. If you haven't already downloaded the app, I'm going to share a link to that, and you can click the link, download the app. The quickest anyone's ever created a profile is in 12 seconds. So if you can beat that, I'll be extremely impressed. And of course, it is free to start to become a member of UK Homes Network. So if you haven't noticed, I'm joined by Scott Williams. Scott is the founder of the Property Developer Show. Scott, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Scott, could you give us a bit of an intro into who you are, your background, how it is you're sitting here with us today?
Absolutely. So I'm property through and through. I was fortunate enough to land an apprenticeship working for a developer pretty early on in my working career and sort of fell in love with the industry, fell in love with business, property, everything sort of in between. And I sort of moved in and out of the industry, so to speak, but I've worked in lettings, HMO management, sales, pretty much anything to do with property. I've almost done, apart from the commercial side. So I sort of invested into HMOs early on, sort of decided that landlording wasn't quite for me and sort of moved into more developing houses. I've got a plot of land at the minute trying to get three houses on and just a little flip that I'm doing. So I keep my hand in property myself. And then obviously off the back of that passion, I realized that no one was really orientating a exhibition trade show towards people like myself that are developing houses. Obviously, we've got a couple of other industry shows and trade shows that go on, but nothing really specific to developers. So obviously spotted the niche and went after it this year.
Great. And your first ever show was in Stoke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in Stoke. That was because I'm Cheshire based, so it was sort of the closest city to me where I had all my contacts. So it was a bit of a, does this idea work? Am I just completely insane? Is it just me that wants this? So yeah, I tried it in an area where I knew I had obviously contacts, business contacts for service providers, people that I'd use myself. So I managed to fill the event there. We had 380 people book onto that, registered tickets, and we had 31, 32 exhibitors. We did have 32, but someone had to shoot off early because they didn't order banners in time. So that's another story. But yeah, it was obviously a great event. The feedback was amazing. So we sort of went after it and obviously moved to Birmingham and now looking at Manchester.
Amazing. And how do the nerves compare between sort of being on the eve of Manchester versus being on the eve of Stoke?
Yeah, I think do you know, I don't really, to be honest with you, personally don't feel the pressure, to be quite honest. I think once once I've got the exhibitors, once the tickets start to sell, that's for me, that's the pressure. The pressure is getting people to come along to the event first of all. So once I kind of get that momentum, it's all about just delivering an impactful event, which I kind of run the event as if I was attending it, and I'm quite a stickler at events, so I like to enjoy myself, get a good experience from it. So I'm always conscious of trying to provide that for people that do attend our events. And it's important that both the exhibitors and the attendees get value from the event because we don't want to, we're not just a one-stop shop. We want to continue to grow this sort of into different areas and continue to provide value for attendees and improve the sector for service providers as well, connecting good service providers that obviously we attract to the show with good developers that are looking to grow and scale their business.
Amazing. What are you most excited about with Manchester?
I think to be honest with you, the kind of the level up from Stoke. I mean, obviously, I mentioned the numbers before. The Manchester show is like a whole new level for us. We've got 40 exhibitors, which is pretty much the capacity of the room. within the sort of main area. We've got two stages, which is 13 speakers in total throughout the day. We've got the likes of Property Elevator there. We're at, I can't remember what I said, was it 765 tickets, 775 tickets this morning, wasn't it? That we're at. So we're almost double what we were at in Stoke. So I think I'm looking forward to just seeing this come together. And I mean, my sort of passion in business and my own career is to create something that's bigger and better than me. And I feel like I've done that with the show and providing a platform that I genuinely think can help improve this industry in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just connecting people or enabling people to start investing in property as well.
Amazing. And you touched on the speakers there. There's quite a diverse range of speakers from different backgrounds covering different expertise.
Yeah.
What what's the what's the sort of method you've gone for in picking those speakers and selecting them? Have you sort of categorized and made sure that all areas are covered, or how does that work?
We try to work closely with exhibitors at the show so that if they've got a technical business, like for example Bevy, who is spelt Bewi, but they're Norwegian, so it's pronounced Bevy. They sell a sort of prefab insulated non-traditional build system that if you didn't know what it was, you would need someone to explain it to them. So we provide the opportunity for them to obviously come to the show, explain to developers what the benefits are of using that system. And the same with, other speakers. We've got Cornerstone that are talking about stamp duty refunds. So obviously that's something that could benefit a lot of people that are attending there. But you kind of know it exists, but you don't really know the details of it. So obviously it's important that people are coming along and understanding exactly what exhibitors are doing so they can obviously use the service to help improve their property investment journey. And that's kind of what we do. We allow obviously exhibitors as well as sort of industry leading experts, I would say, to come and speak as well. The likes of Lorcan Donaldson, obviously the Property Elevator guys, as I mentioned, that can provide insights to actually investing and actually doing the do at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Lorcan, I watched a networking event not so long ago, and just getting him in a room and the value he shares with developers is incredible, because it's I think one of the nice things about the property developers show is that the speakers there are not there to make it seem all glamorous and that there's loads of money to be made from property development. A lot of them get into the nitty gritty of how difficult it is and what the struggles are out there. And those speakers, some of them have actually appeared on your podcast. So if people don't know, they can go to YouTube and check out the Property Developer Show podcast, which is just incredible because the production value on it is so high. Could you sort of give us a bit more insight into that, and how the podcast works, what kind of guests you've had on there?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, hopefully it's a good impression as to how you do one thing is how you do everything. So we've invested quite heavily into developing the podcasts, getting obviously really good guests on, people that in my opinion, are not shouting too loudly on social media, maybe have an understated presence, but are actually out there doing the do. And I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this often seeing people on social media saying they're doing something, but not actually doing that in real life. Whereas our focus for the developer show, the podcast, is to get people that are actually out there really doing the do. That it's not about how many views we get, it's about having good quality guests that can provide genuine value to the listeners. And that's how we want to come across on the podcast with the show. But yeah, we use a studio in Liverpool. We sort of pay a retainer fee and they produce the content at amazing quality. So it's yeah, it's a fabulous setup there, and a shout out to those guys if anyone's looking to set up a podcast. It's a Liverpool Podcast Studio, so I'll give them a bit of a shout out because they are great guys. They've got a phenomenal setup there.
Amazing. And what's the plan with this show? Because obviously you've doubled it since Stoke in terms of the amount of people that are attending, and you're already in some quite iconic venues. minus West Brom's ground. It should have been Villa, but never mind. Um, in terms of the Manchester show, that's at the Etihad. You can't get more iconic than that. Is the plan to do bigger venues, or is it to go in more locations? Reach more people.
Absolutely. I mean, we early on, I didn't want to, or we didn't want to overstep in terms of trying to get too ambitious too quickly. So, sort of Stoke was Bet365 Stadium, reasonably, a reasonable location in terms of size and facilities. West Brom was kind of we did look at Villa as well, but West Brom was sort of more compact, and it was important for me that we provide that value for people that are attending, and we didn't want to go too big too quickly and have 30 exhibitors in a 50 capacity venue, because it just wouldn't have had the same impact as what we created in Birmingham. So we wanted to sort of slowly catch a monkey, as they say, and sort of stepping stone in towards sort of expanding the show. And Manchester's kind of been probably the riskiest event of the year in terms of venue, the costs, the marketing that's gone into it. But the return has obviously proved that the concept works. So next year we'll be focusing on more the Manchester kind of model, where we've got bigger events. We'll be looking so I'll probably give some level of insights to locations that are post webinar, but we'll be definitely in Birmingham and Manchester again, and might be at Villa for the Birmingham one. I can neither confirm nor deny. But yeah, we kind of wanted to make sure that we kept the value in the show, and that we didn't overstretch too early and sort of lose the quality. Because for me, the quality is why I set this show up. It's providing that value for the sector and making sure that that shines through, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the show, whether it's the speakers at the show, whether it's the exhibitors. That's the quality that we want to keep for this event.
Amazing, and that quality seems to be sort of a really key word, because when I went into the Birmingham event, there's just a real sort of air of anticipation. People are coming out of the speakers feeling energized and talking about some of the talking points that were going on in those seminars, and generally there seems to be a lot of excitement around this event as to the potential it could grow to, and already some of the conversations and deals that have come out as a direct result of being in the room. And obviously the speakers play a massive part in that, but there also has to be an element of quality from your perspective when you're selecting exhibitors and bringing exhibitors forward to exhibit at the event. So can you talk me through how that process works? How have you worked with some of those exhibitors, and why do you think that those exhibitors are representing your brand and the quality of the show that you want to give to attendees?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I think naturally the businesses that are proactive in doing these types of events are typically good businesses. They're often at the forefront. They're always looking for ways to improve, get themselves in front of the right people. It's not just about the bottom line, it's still keeping that value piece and making sure that they're providing good value to those customers, clients, the likes of Roma, Crowd, Property Finance Collective. They're all good companies that provide excellent service. So we've kind of that's been our approach, and I think naturally you kind of attract those types of businesses when you're providing something of value. That the values have to align, and I think that's what we've kind of managed to gauge within that sort of early stages of putting these events together. And I think we sort of limit it as well to a certain amount of businesses within a certain sector. So we've only got 3 lenders. We've only got 2 finance brokers. We've only got 2 insurance brokers. We've only got 2 property staging companies. So we try and maintain that level of diversity within the exhibitors as well, where we're not overly heavy within the finance sector or the insurance sector. We really do have a good variety of people. So realistically, we're not quite there yet, but in my mind, the ambition really is that anyone that's never developed before can go along to the event. They can meet all the exhibitors that they need in terms of service providers, and they can literally start developing the following day. That for me is where we want to be at for 2025, 2026. So that's kind of aligning to that value piece that we're trying to create with the show.
Amazing. And I think from my perspective, when I was looking at the show and sort of looking at whether to exhibit or not, the one thing that really struck me is that if you look from Stoke, Birmingham, and now Manchester, yes, you've added some new exhibitors, but the amount of exhibitors that are coming back event after event, you've got such a high return rate of exhibitors. There's obviously a real there's a real buy-in from those exhibitors, those partners that are in the event. So what's some of the feedback that you've had from the exhibitors that makes them want to come back? You know, I would say every month, but nearly every quarter now, isn't it, with this event?
Yeah, I think it's the opportunities that come off the back of it, of course, and whether it's the business to business opportunities or the business. Well, I suppose in the property it is all B2B, but you know what I'm sort of saying with that. The other exhibitors doing business between each other, as well as obviously the developers that do turn up on the day, as well as that, about 20-25% of our attendees are other service providers as well that are looking for networking opportunities, and they're all operating within the same sector demographic, and obviously the opportunities that can be created. I'm saying opportunities a lot because there is a lot of opportunities at the show, but the opportunities that are there for people. So it's that's the reason I think people are coming back, because they know they've seen the value, they've seen the concept, the proof in the pudding, and our retention rate for sort of non location restricted businesses is quite high to what I would imagine the industry norm is for repeat business in terms of people wanting to exhibit at more than one show.
Yeah, definitely. I've been to some events early on in the year that are now coming back later on in the year, and the amount of people that have dropped off that are not coming back to those events for one reason or another is quite high in comparison to, the return rate that you guys have got. So it's really exciting to see that because if the exhibitors believe in the event, the attendees believe in the event, that's my thoughts on it. So yeah, really exciting. Can you give any sort of tips or advice for anyone that's come into the Manchester show as a first time attendee? Because obviously it is still a fairly new show in comparison to some of the other shows that have been running. What are the sort of things that you would recommend to make the most out of their experience coming?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for certain service providers, I would recommend researching who will be at the event so you can come and hopefully find that specific exhibitor and obviously have a conversation with them. Also, I think go there with an open mind, with even if you've got your own insurance broker and you walk past an insurance broker stand, embrace the fact that someone might have try and strike a conversation with you, because you really don't know where those conversations go. You might mention something and they might have a solution to a certain problem, or they might be able to introduce you to someone. So I think just be open-minded and receptive to that approach from exhibitors, because it's all about networking. It's not just about selling, it's about creating opportunities within the events. I think obviously if you're looking to come and listen to certain speakers, try and organize that, because we've got two stages this time, so some speakers do overlap. So obviously try and work that into how you can listen to all the speakers that you want to listen to on the day. There's food and drinks that is provided on in the venue as well, so you can literally spend all day there, networking, listening to speakers, speaking to exhibitors, and hopefully walking away with some value, whether it's education, a new contact, or a new property deal potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I experienced is that if it's the first time you're attending, particularly when I went to Birmingham, is just how willing people are to network and engage with you. So be completely open-minded, go up and have a chat to people, and definitely bring along business cards because you're going to need them. People are going to be asking for them. And like you said, even if you have got a mortgage advisor or a finance broker there, the quality of the networkers in the room, even if that's not what you're looking for, they will be able to pair you up with someone in the room that can help with your requirements for a particular contact or deal. So yeah, definitely it's dead exciting. So we're less than what, a week away now from Manchester.
5 days, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So we've touched on some of the speakers, we've touched on the exhibitors themselves, but from your experience, Scott, what are the sort of key main strategies that people are going to be looking for when they're going into the room? Is there sort of a trend that people are focusing on, particularly with this show? I know that property tends to have a few trends relating to strategies, whether it's HMO, serviced accommodation, that kind of thing. Is there anything that you're feeling a lot of anticipation from the attendees about?
Yeah, I think we sort of lean more towards the new build sort of sector, for sure. Obviously, with the likes of Bevy, Nimbus, just to name a couple of exhibitors that sort of orientate towards that sector. But we've certainly that was originally the main plan why I set the show up. But I think it was kind of a bit sort of pigeon sort of I expanded it to HMO conversions, commercial conversions, because I think realistically you are a developer if you're doing any building work whatsoever, that the process is somewhat similar in most degrees. Obviously the outcome and the input is a little bit different, but the process is somewhat similar with similar service providers. So we kind of moved away from just focusing on sort of new build stuff and moved towards sort of the whole. Basically, if you hold a hammer at any point during your property career, you are a property developer. So that is our way of identifying that individual. So we do have a lot of businesses there that like to operate within the new build land sort of sector, but that doesn't restrict the fact that we've got the likes of Property Filter that are obviously their main focus is existing property and finding deals within that area. So we're certainly not pigeonholed, that's the right word I was looking
Yeah.
for, into the new build scenario, but that is sort of an area that we do attract uh, really good people that are in that sort of sector.
So you're going to have quite a range of abilities there in terms of sort of newcomers right up to seasoned house builders, property developers that are there.
Yeah.
Is there a way that those newcomers can integrate a little bit more with the seasoned house builders and lean on their experience at the show?
Absolutely. I think that comes down to the networking piece. It's been open to having the conversations. Obviously, we've got the VIP early access, which is £25 a ticket, but that's open networking with other people that are willing to invest a bit of money in making sure that they get the most value from the day. So they're the types of areas that you want to be operating in, because they're the ones where you can have a conversation with someone just over a tea and coffee, and you just never know where that conversation goes. And the experience of some of the developers that do come along to the show, and not just including the speakers, is phenomenal. We've got developers that are developing 40 plus units. About 25% are new developers or just getting started, and 50% are existing experienced developers. That's kind of our attendee percentage.
Amazing. Just to say, guys, obviously this session is totally interactive. So if you have got any questions for Scott, please do put them in the chat. It'd be great to hear from you. Obviously, if you're attending the show, please do let us know. And at the end, we will put a link in the chat so that you can register for a free ticket to attend in Manchester on the 4th. It would be great to see you there. So Scott, what's kind of some of the future plans for the show? Is there anything that you can sort of reveal to us at this stage?
Yeah, so we'll be looking at 5 locations next year. Obviously, I mentioned two of those, and then we'll be looking at 3 new locations and really sort of trying to spread the net in terms of where we are in terms of the UK, so to speak. We're not quite going to London yet. That's hopefully a future plan at some point, but we're sort of looking at other areas where potentially there isn't a lot of events going on there, as well as also sort of well-established locations that do have the occasional events. So we're certainly looking at I'm looking at venues sort of after this show, early September. So we'll be able to sort of announce dates potentially October time for 2025. So it'll certainly be on everyone's radar. If you're following us on social media, or we've got your email, we've got you somehow, you'll certainly find out about those dates.
Amazing. And Scott, obviously we are less than a week away from the event. How are you going to be spending your time preparing for the show? Is it going to be nerve-wracking? Are you going to be sort of is there much to do to get the room ready, or is it all falling into place quite?
Yeah, I mean we've learned obviously from the first two events, we've kind of got a bit of a cookie cut kind of process now. The main thing is chasing the exhibitors that are last minute, which is just part of the parcel. Some people are busy and struggle to get stuff across the line. But apart from that, we're pretty much ready to go. The venues are brilliant that we work with, so they are pretty much on it with the process and making sure that they deliver on the day, because that's ultimately down to them whether we've got tables or not, and all that sort of stuff. So I can only pray that when I turn up, it's all there, ready to go. So, but yeah, we're just following the process. We're putting things in place that we've obviously improved on, and making sure that that value piece and opportunities are there for when people attend next week.
Amazing. Well, thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you joining us today. Is there anything that you'd like to plug before we close the session?
Not that we haven't discussed. Obviously, tickets are free for general admission, and then we do, as I mentioned, have the VIP tickets, which is kind of a bit higher level in terms of the people that are there. Obviously, free tea and coffee and open networking to begin with, and you get a chance to go around the exhibition hall without general admission tickets as well, to give you a chance to speak to those exhibitors that you want to speak to. So yeah, that, and then obviously subscribe and listen to the podcast if you're into that sort of stuff. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on today, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
All right, thanks, Scott. Really appreciate you coming on. The link is now in the chat, so if you want to register for a free ticket, once you're on the website, you'll also be able to find a link to the podcast as well. So I really recommend checking that out. As I say, it is a fantastic podcast. Some of the speakers that are going to be at the event have also been on the podcast, so it'll give you a nice little insight into some of the stuff they're going to talk about. Thanks, Anthony. Great chat. Can't wait for the show. Thanks, gents. Look forward to seeing you there, Anthony. Thanks for being involved. So yeah, nice and short, sweet session today. If you want to sign up to UK Homes Network, you can do so via the links. Scott is in the platform. We also have a private group for attendees and exhibitors at the Property Developer Show. So if you want to keep up to date with any regular events, anything if you want to keep up to date with what's happening with the event, that's a great place to do it. And of course, they're sharing regular content into UK Homes Network. Our next webinar is going to be next Friday. We're going to be joined by another Scott. So we've got Scott Marshall of Roma Finance, who is also a partner of the Property Developer Show. So he'll be coming on to do a market update. If you want to register for that, details are in UK Homes Network. So please do sign up via the platform for that. So that's all from me, and a massive thank you to Scott for joining us. We look forward to seeing you soon, and of course we'll be there next week. So look forward to networking with you at the Property Developers Show in Manchester.